very good evening to you and welcome to this live broadcast on NTV. My name is Michelle Ngele Odhiambo. Tonight we take on one of the most urgent conversations of our time. How communities, governments and partners can work together to end extreme poverty for good. But what exactly does extreme poverty mean? The World Bank defines it as living on less than $2 a day. That's about 280 shillings. Think about it. Surviving on 280 shillings to cover food, school fees, healthcare, transport. For millions of Kenyans, this isn't just theory, it's daily life. In fact, 1 in every 5 Kenyans faces this harsh reality. But there is hope. Innovative approaches like the poverty graduation model are proving that with the right skills, support and opportunities, families can break the cycle of poverty and transform their lives sustainably. To help us unpack this conversation, I'm joined by a distinguished panel of leaders who are at the heart of this fight. Now, joining us tonight is John Ochieng, who is the project manager of policy and advocacy at Village Enterprise. John, many thanks for being with us. We also have Honorable Lucky Litole. She is the County Executive Committee member for Culture, Tourism, Sports, Youth Affairs and Social Services in West Pokot County. Also joining us tonight is Honorable Sebastian Choni. He is the County Executive Committee member for Gender, Children, Youth, Sports and Social Services in Makueni County. And last but not least, Honorable Shadrach Mutungi, the County Executive Committee member for Youth Affairs, Sports, Gender and Social Services in Taita Taveta County. Ladies and gentlemen, karibuni sana and thank you for being here. Now, before we get to the big stuff, let's begin with perhaps a sentence from each of you. And let me begin with you, John, because we're talking about alleviating extreme poverty. When you talk about poverty in one sentence, what does poverty mean to you when you think about your county every day?
Thank you very much, Michelle. Pleased to be here. So poverty can be defined in so many ways and looked at in different perspectives. But in the Kenyan context, poverty is defined by households or individuals who live below $2.5 a day. And these are people who cannot sustain provision of meals, essential meals in a day. In their households, they cannot take care of basic services like taking children to school or affording health care. So that is how we look at poverty, and they have no economic purchasing power to ensure that all the things that they need, the basic needs that they need in their households and even support systems within their households are catered for. Thank you. Good.
Well, the poverty graduation model that we're discussing today, John, has been developed by Village Enterprise. For someone hearing about Village Enterprise for the first time, tell us about what the organization does.
So, Village Enterprise is a non-profit, and the mission of Village Enterprise is to end extreme poverty in Africa. And Village Enterprise does that by working with women, refugees, and vulnerable youth. And Village Enterprise has a 12-month poverty graduation model, which has got a sequence set of interventions that is premised on entrepreneurship. So this basically involves targeting the extreme poor within the communities and giving them training and mentorships on how to identify and start businesses. And they're given some seed capital in form of grants and not loans to ensure that they address their immediate economic needs within the households, but also use that funding to start and run sustainable businesses. Yeah, so that's what we do. It's a 12-month model, and there are parameters or metrics that are measured, are monitored across the 12 months to really give us a clear picture of whether the households are being lifted out of poverty or not. Yeah. All
right, and we'll be discussing the success and failure in the event of this model. But let's bring in the counties because they're now on the front line of this model. Honorable Lucky Litole, with poverty at nearly 68% in West Pokot County, according to the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, what does extreme poverty mean to you when you think about your county?
Thank you very much, Michelle. And as from West Pokot County, as you've just said, up to around more than 50% poverty rate and 16% in food security. And also, of course, in terms of children going to school and fighting other challenges like any other county, in terms of FGM, that leads to children to early marriages, that again makes them not go back to school and get married. But again, speaking of poverty, those are now that informs matters poverty. How I can describe poverty in West Pokot County is the situation where the parents, or rather the households, cannot afford food for even one meal a day. And even families going hungry, children not going to school, and all that surrounds in terms of even the GBV situations in the county. So poverty levels is high, and we are here together with Village Enterprise to see into it that we create pathways in creating, empowering the people to work towards being a capacity build and able to stand for themselves. Thank you, Michelle.
What are some of the programs in partnership with Village Enterprise that you have launched? Because I understand that West Pokot is also very big on climate smart initiatives for the people there.
Yeah, thank you, Michelle. We've had few programs together with Village Enterprise since 2019, and we were able to review a policy on ultra-poor graduation. And having said that, we also have a bill that is already at the county that is to strengthen the legal performance of the policy as well. So the programs that we've had is giving grants to the community, to the households, and it's over 1,000 households that have benefited. That is, we had a piloting grants, or rather program, to 3 wards, of which up to 1,000 households benefited. And also, you've talked of smart agriculture. Of course, we've had women at home keeping chicken and also having some kitchen gardens. They're able to get good vegetables for their children, food for their children, and also able to have entrepreneurship, having small businesses to run. Yes.
All right. And we'll come back to just what impact some of these programs have had. But Honorable Shadrach Mutungi, representing Taita Taveta County, my home county, in fact, and yes. Taita deals with unique challenges from the after effects of mining to climate shocks. I like to believe that youth migration in Taita Taveta County is actually at an all-time high as we speak. When you think about poverty in Taita Taveta County, what comes to your mind first, and how are you leveraging this poverty graduation model by Village Enterprise to better the lives of the people of Taita Taveta?
Thank you, Michelle Gele. When we look at Taita Taveta County, and when we talk of poverty, generally, as my colleagues have talked about, is the ability of the people of Taita Taveta to be able to feed their families, be able to take their kids to school, be able to afford manure or fertilizer for the farms, be able to afford artificial insemination for their livestock, also be able to feed and also take their kids to school, afford to pay school fees, and all what is all that. But in Taita Taveta, when we look at all that, we call it the multidimensional poverty, and currently, which stands at 40% across the 4 sub-counties of Taita Taveta. But other than the multidimensional poverty, we also have the food poverty, because they cannot be able to afford that, and the extreme poverty, whereby around 8% are under extreme poverty. And the monetary poverty is about 32%. Therefore, that paints a picture which is too much challenging. Immediately after His Excellency Dr. Andrew Mwadime came to office, and we were put into office, one of the challenges which the governor gave me was to look at how we can eliminate. It is not possible to eliminate immediately, but to fight the issues of poverty. Therefore, the first thing is to put policies and legislation into place. And therefore, in the year 2024, we managed to develop the poverty elevation policy for the Taita Taveta County. Later, we found it is good to have it as an act, and therefore, as we speak now, the Taita Taveta County Policy, Empowerment and Enterprise Bill is at the County Assembly of Taita Taveta. And even before that, we realized we might spend a lot of time as we wait for the bill to be in place. Therefore, we said with the policy, we can start piloting. And I can assure you now, under the leadership of Governor Wakuja, we now have some money to start piloting ending extreme poverty in Taita Taveta. And before the end of this year, we'll have targeted and we'll get about 300 households across Taita Taveta, meaning every ward we shall have 15 households which are under the lowest level of the poverty, and we shall give them mentorship. We shall ensure they are trained on issues of business, and this is in partnership with the Village Enterprise.
All right, and of course we'll be looking also at the sustainability of these projects later on. But Honorable Sebastian Choni, let's come to you, representing Makueni County. But Makueni County has also been praised often for innovation, from the Universal Healthcare Plan to the Empowerment Fund. How is the county aligning its programs with the poverty graduation model?
Okay, thank you, Michelle. Makueni County is a rural county which generally depends mainly on rain-fed subsistence agriculture. So with the challenges of sometimes having no rains, then that subjects most of our families to food insecurity, and thus having challenges with even having food and any other economic activities that can bring some support to the family. So this has, we have had interventions before where those families are supported with relief food and such other interventions, which are more like one-off. So this ultra-poor graduation has come now to be able to have some sustainable support to these ultra-poor families and households. So with our partnership with the Village Enterprise, we have been able to come together and develop an ultra-poor graduation policy. And now we have also further gone to prepare and develop an ultra-poor graduation bill, which is now with the County Assembly and which would be enacted very soon, so that with the policy we have a framework which guides our ultra-poor graduation approach and which provides the necessary sustainability measures, so that as we target to address the poverty in Makueni, we are addressing in a sustainable way. We also have the Empowerment Fund, which was earlier, which was in place, which was commonly referred to as the Tetheka Fund. That Tetheka Fund faced some challenges, and some of the challenges was because we were providing loans to people who actually have challenges even with food. So when we give them the loans, they get challenges even having to get money to refund the loans. Therefore, the ultra-poor graduation approach provides some stability in terms of having these families being able to graduate from their ultra-poor situation to some sustainable livelihood. Then now they can be able to access loans which they can be able to pay through the economic activities that they would have been introduced during the graduation process. So that is one of the approaches we are taking, and through His Excellency Governor Mutula Kilonzo Jr., we are saying we do not want to leave anyone behind, and the ultra-poor families have been left behind in most of our government interventions before, and therefore this ultra-poor graduation gives an opportunity to ensure that there is inclusion of those ultra-poor families in our social protection interventions. Thank you.
All right, and I mean, a lot has come out really from what the three counties are experiencing. John, let's bring you in. So these three counties, West Pokot, Makueni, Taita Taveta, were chosen, you know, for the poverty graduation model. We're hearing about the ultra poor graduation. We're hearing about policies and acts which have been put in place to ensure that we alleviate people from poverty. Why were these 3 counties chosen? And most importantly, what is different about this poverty alleviation model from other traditional aid programs that we've seen before?
Thank you very much, Michelle. Why we are working with these 3 counties, and of course this is just a pilot, is because, number one, if you look at the poverty indices for West Pokot, Makueni and Taita Taveta, they are way much above the national average. So that makes them obviously candidates for partnership in terms of poverty programs. Then number 2, for West Pokot is unique to us because West Pokot was the first county in Kenya to develop an ultra-poor graduation policy. That was way back in 2020. So it was only important for us to partner with the county and see modalities for moving the policy forward in terms of implementation. And colleague Lucky has explained how that has moved into a bill, which will soon be enacted into a law. And of course, there are plans for the county to start implementation. For Makueni and Taita Taveta, we implemented Kenya National Social and Economic Inclusion Program with the national government some years back. And this was a pilot, an economic inclusion program by the national government and piloted in only 5 counties, and Makueni and Taita Taveta were one of them. But despite so many successful stories about KSEP, the gap was that county governments were less involved. And county governments are closer to the people. They're the ones who are implementing devolution and bringing services very closer to the people, and they understand the dynamics in the community. So it was only important that we also try to scale down the successes of KSEP and bring it down to the local leaders within the county so that they can also implement ultra-poor graduation programs. And last but not least, we know that economic inclusion is a critical component of social protection. Although the national government remains with the mandate for social protection, the sectors that are key to implementation of social protection are either devolved fully to the counties or co-shared with national government. And we know that budget follows function. So counties also have a budget, although they're still struggling with revenue. But they have a budget to ensure that they prioritize graduation programs and implement. And of course, looking at their development plans, look at the 3 governors, I think a key priority for them when they came in office, Wakiweka Biblia chini, was poverty alleviation. So that's really why we are partnering with the 3 counties, but we expect to roll these out to many more counties.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm still on the point of how sustainable this is from traditional aid programs we've seen, because look at the Sustainable Development Goals, for example, also aimed at alleviating poverty across the continent. But the UN itself estimates that Africa faces a $1.3 trillion annual financing gap to achieve the SDGs. So really, how sustainable is this project? How much, for example, John, does it cost to support a household through this program? And what's the return on investment?
A very interesting question. I'm looking at sustainability in 2 ways. So one, in terms of who is implementing the program, and 2, in terms of how do we work with the participants, the extreme poor, to an extent whereby when they graduate out of poverty, then they don't fall back into that bracket. So the first one is we are scaling ultra-poor graduation model with government. We know governments are there they're permanent and they can implement programs in perpetuity. So that's one of the reasons we're working with both the national government and the county governments. Regimes come and go, but the government as an institution remains in place, so they can, once they sort of embed ultra-poor graduation programs within their policies and legal frameworks, they can implement year in, year out. The second one, in terms of sustainability for the participants, is for us as Village Enterprise, we have our curriculum. We have modules that we use to train the participants right from targeting to the end, and we ensure that they're not only trained on business identification and operation, but also how to respond to shocks, conflict, drought, that can also come and disrupt the normal, management of businesses. And then you asked about value for money, I think. So I mentioned that we give our participants grants and not loans. So we group them into three. So 3 or 2 people can come together to start a business, and they're given a grant of about 30,000 Kenya shillings. And we have done longitudinal surveys across the years and realized that most of these participants who have graduated out of poverty still have, increased savings, household income, and of course, increased better nutrition within the household.
All right.
Yeah.
Lucky, would you agree that this model perhaps differs from traditional aid models? Because, people say, critics especially, that handouts often create dependency, right? So how does this model avoid that trap from your experience with the people of West Pokot?
Thank you very much, Michelle. What I can say about this model, that it's helping our people not to be dependent, or rather to make sure that they are helping themselves without being helped. Basically, I can give an example. Where these community people or the households have been given the grants, we make sure that we follow it up, that they've done exactly what they had requested for, in terms of small entrepreneurs, women going back to the markets and even selling their products. We make sure that the business is sustainable. And also, Michelle, I want to agree with John that even the county governments are allocating some funds. For example, West Pokot County, under the leadership of His Excellency the Governor Kachapin, we've allocated funds for the same. We'll be giving grants rolling out very soon in the month of October to make sure that the people get funds, or rather the vulnerable ones get the funds to make sure that they are able to run businesses and make sure that they get food, they get market to sell their products and all that. And to add on this, Michelle, is before then, we also have some initiatives, yes, that complements the UPG, the ultra poor graduation. For us, we have initiatives like Ondoa Nyasi initiative, where those who have the thatched houses are given iron sheets and they build houses. Out of it, they are also able to harvest water and have some kitchen garden. You see, that is now giving them at least a livelihood that is of good standard.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Let me come to you. You'd like to add to that, Sebastian?
Yes, Michelle, the sustainability of this program starts even from the way it is run, because the beneficiaries are identified, targeted, and the identification and the targeting process is community involved, so that the community is actually involved in their identification, in their targeting, and this provides some ownership even within the community and some more of oversight even by the community itself. And because some of these households are very poor, when you give them a grant and you don't know how they are going to eat, it is very likely that they are going to divert the grant into looking for food. So the program has a provision for consumption support, so that the families are supported in their daily consumption besides the business initiative that they are being supported to, so that they do not divert the money meant for the business to get food or to get other services. And therefore, within the 12 months that they are supported, by the time now they graduate, then now they are able now to even get food from their own business. Therefore, that approach ensures some sustainability, and through now the legal framework that we are making in the county governments, now that provides even some obligation by the government to ensure the program runs in the counties that we are in.
All right, I like that you bring us there, because Shadrach, that's the next thing I want you to address.
Yes.
These policies that county governments are enacting, because again, in terms of sustainability, we know that county budgets are already limited. So where really does poverty graduation and alleviation sit in the county's list of priorities?
Thank you, Michelle. And John also tried to unpack what is UPG. And if we can really understand and unpack it very well, it will address sustainability. UPG is not, the ultra-poor graduation model is not the normal tokenism way of giving some aid to people or the communities the way, the normal way. The UPG is a sequential way of addressing poverty and addressing livelihoods. It starts with the targeting, whereby the communities themselves, using the Nyumba Kumi, the communities come together, and also through mentorship and the mentors, because in the process and the implementation, there is need for people who will be doing follow-up, and therefore we have identified mentors who work with the community leaders, and through use of technological system, we have management information system, which is able to rank, is this household able to buy, cater for medicine? Is it able to cater for education? And after that, there is a period of training. No grant is given until the training takes place. During the training, these groups are also trained on how to do savings, and we call them the business saving groups. During the process of 3, 4, 5 months, they are also able to save on their own. By the time we reach the stage of giving the grants, we are able to tell this household now understands what is ultra-poor gradation. Therefore, at the household level, that is a sustainability on its own. They will be able to maintain their businesses, and they will be able to scale after that. We are also in the process also linking them with the market linkages. There are those who are doing agriculture, there are those who are in mining, there are those in different areas. Therefore, we link them to the markets. At the same time, there are also those who, after the graduation of 12 months, they will need to scale their businesses. They will not need the 30,000. Therefore, in the process, we also link them to financial institutions. That is also a way of sustaining these enterprises. But also on the issue of policies. Yes, it is true. Yes, we, as governments, we come and we do policies. And the one thing I said is when we realized policy might not be that much binding, we went to the Act. The Act for Taita Taveta is very clear. Any government which will be in place will have to make sure that 1% of the development budget is allocated to poverty elevation programs. And these poverty elevation programs are many. The reason why parents are given bursaries is because they are not able. That means that is poverty. The reason why we give farmers some subsidies is because of that. Therefore, that 1% will be able to address all those dimensional poverty issues at the county of Taita Taveta. Therefore, there is sustainability. We are sure regimes come, regimes go, but this will remain.
All right, and that's a good point of concern. Now, John, Shadrach mentions 30,000 shillings, because I was going to ask how much are beneficiaries of this project getting to start whatever projects they're starting? Is it a set amount? Is it an amount depending on the group of people? How much are people getting to start this? And many times when we have funds like this, part of the biggest problem has been the bureaucracy that comes with accessing these funds. Talk to us about that process. And for anyone watching and would like to be part of this process, how do they begin?
Thank you so much, Michelle. So how much here for us, I said it's between 30 to 38,000 Kenya shillings. And that is given to a group of 3 to start and run business. Of course, county governments who are now gearing up for implementation may come up with their own amounts depending on their budget and what they think can work for the participants. And of course, the KSEP that we implemented with the national government also had its own amount. So the amount varies depending on what you think can support the households to address the immediate needs and also invest some of the money in business. The second question was about the bureaucracies. So for us, NGOs operate differently. I know governments are bound by the Constitution and several legal frameworks. So for us, it's quite easy because we have systems for databases for the participants, and of course, there's the mentorship that happens, And of course, there's monitoring and evaluation until such a point that we feel they need to get the grant. And the process is so smooth because, you know, of existing systems, mobile money transfer to the participants and the rest. For counties, it may be different. And that is why we spent time to embed the model in their policy and legal frameworks. Because, for instance, my CEC friend Sebastian can't just wake up one day and take his mobile and wire money to so many to county residents. So there's a particular, the Public Finance Management Act is very clear on how counties should deal with such a scenario, and that we are leaving to them to decide. So the key thing for us is co-creation. We sit down with the county governments and even the national government and look at the modalities, their mandate, what is possible within the constitution and the mandate, the legal mandate that they have, and use those systems. But of course, Shadrach mentioned that we are supporting them to develop management information system that has been customized for every county and they can use to implement the program, including disbursement of funds.
All right.
Yeah.
Lucky, perhaps tell us the difference from your experience on the ground when John says it's not a loan, it's a grant. What does that mean to the person on the ground?
Okay, Michelle, when John says it's not a loan, it's grants, it's because the persons who have been targeted are totally vulnerable, are the poor, the ultra poor, the extreme poor, meaning they are given these grants to start up businesses and not returning back the money. And we make sure that we follow it up. The way my colleague Shadrach mentioned, that we monitor the kind of business that they are doing, that we started with them, and make sure that it's also working and they're improving. Michelle, I can assure you that it's had a lot of impact to all the families. And you will see that even women are empowered, are much empowered in terms of economically able, giving to the community and also to the family, feeding their families, and even their spouses are happy at home. As I'd said earlier, issues GBV is no longer there. But again, as you've said, the grants that are given are not expected to be returned. And so they know, and we make sure that they understand that this money that we want, the money to grow, the money to feed their children, the money to take their children back to school. Yes, Michelle.
Sebastian, let me come to you and ask, beyond county and government budgets, what role do you see the private sector playing in scaling such models?
Okay, thank you, Michelle. Maybe just to add on what my friend Lucky has said, most of the empowerment funds that we have target groups, self-help groups, registered groups, and all that. An ultra-poor household would not be able to subscribe to the normal self-help groups that we have there, because the self-help groups have subscriptions that have to be done, and there is a lot of expenditure around being in a self-help group. Therefore, they would be excluded. So there's some social exclusion of that ultra-poor family from the normal empowerment funds because they cannot join a self-help group. So this ultra-poor graduation now would give them an opportunity to be able now to go through this process, and once they graduate, most likely they will have the capacity to even join the self-help groups and therefore even advance and be able to access the other empowerment funds. Now, on the part of the private sector, through this approach, now the governments and in the policies and the act that we have done, we have made the provision to be able to partner with the private sector so that they can be able to support in this ultra-poor graduation process, so that we have the legal framework, we have the provision for the private sector, and therefore we are able to now go out there, meet partners, and who are able to support. Because once we have the framework from the county government, we are able to provide the capacity building, we are able to provide part of the grants, then the private sector are able to come in, either to help us or in the capacity building, and also help in the productive assets, or even the cash transfer, so that together we are able to support this ultra-poor graduation. So with the policy in place, now we have at least we are able to now go out there and get the private sector to be part of this very, very noble initiative.
All right, and of course this ultra-poor graduation model is one that has been pioneered by village enterprise across Africa. We'll be discussing some of the success models that Kenya can learn from. But Shadrach,
yes,
when you talk about Taita Taveta County as a model county,
yes,
very briefly, what is the impact that you have seen from this model on the ground?
Thank you so much. From the experience of KSEP, because as Taita Taveta now, we are now learning from the experience of KSEP, where village enterprise was implementing the ultra-poor graduation model with the national government. I can tell you, if you go to one of the wards, and I have been there and I've seen the beneficiaries, and some of them were even persons with disability. A ward like in Chala, because that is your county, a ward like Chala, there's even a member, a community member who had a family, but was working in Kajiado. The wife was staying at home. They had nothing to do. And she was even a member of one of the groups called Ngwatane. But I think she could not even do anything, even take kids to school. But one of the biggest success stories is for that family. Once they got the grant, they established an enterprise, which was the cash crop. They started planting tomatoes, and I can tell you, they now have a modern house. The man is back from Kajiado, is now staying at home, and they are now able to feed their families, and they are now doing well. That is an example of an ultra-poor graduation, a success story. I am also very sure that from the KSEP, when you come to area called Mwatate, there are ladies we have been seeing along in the Mwatate market who sell the sugarcane. Most of those, they are beneficiaries of the ultra-poor graduation model. I have been in Mwatate since the year 2005, and after that, when they got the support, I can tell you, they have never stopped their businesses. They are still growing and progressing. They are able, and they don't even worry anymore because they have now grown. Therefore, it is true, there is a success story. And Michelle, you know, some people may not even, they may not have accept whether it works or not, even us ourselves. We had to be taken to India, a district called in Patna, Rajgiri, and we found that India had the highest poverty rates, but now they have managed to handle and fight issues of poverty, and we have seen that is a true gospel. And now I'm very sure in Taita Taveta, give us the next 3, 4, 5 years, we'll be able to address this. Because even as the county government, we are targeting the 300. We have also agreed in the supplementary budget, which is coming in the next 2 months, we'll also increase the funding. We'll now be targeting 1,000 by next year, August. The KSF2 is also coming in Taita Taveta, because our governor has really tried to marshal and look for it, and we'll be targeting another 1,500. Therefore, in the next 1 year, we are talking of like 3,000 households. 3,000 households, that is one person. In that one family, maybe as a membership of 5 members, that means around 15,000 people will have been touched directly or indirectly.
All right,
yes.
John, that's humanizing the statistics.
Yeah, I wanted to add something on the successes. So one of our former participants in our county that I won't mention is now, we work mostly with women. One of the women is now an elected member of county assembly. She graduated from this initiative, and that shows how much an economically empowered woman can just look for leadership spaces and places with men. Yeah, that is what I wanted to add.
All right, Sebastian, yes.
Yes, as Makueni County, we are now preparing to pilot the ultra-poor graduation approach, but we have had some initiatives, though not under the ultra-poor graduation model, but we have had a program called Ujuzi Teke Teke, which has been targeting the youth whereby we identify youth from across the county, youth who have been who have some passion for some skill. They may not even have a training in that skill, but they are able to For example, we may have a youth down there who is very passionate about kinyozi. That youth may not even have gone for any training, but we are able to attach them to an established kinyozi, and then after 2-3 months, once he is capable, we buy them a kit, and they are able to start their own kinyozi. And even for ladies, salon kits, welding kits, for even plumber kits, and we have seen that program transforming households. Youth who have been very helpless before, been able to get very stable, and some have even gone beyond and employed other youth into their premises. So that program, though was not in the line of to apply graduation, now with this policy, we are only going to be able to enhance such programs and be able to actually eradicate poverty in Makueni County through those approaches.
All right, and I'll come to you shortly, but John, we're talking about great successes. I mean, Village Enterprise has started over 100,000 businesses, trained over 300,000 first-time entrepreneurs, impacted more than 2 million lives. But what does failure look like in the setup of this ultra-poor graduation? Suppose you've given the grant to a particular group and it doesn't take off. What does that look like?
Michelle, it's hard to think about failure where it has not existed before. But I think despite all the successes in the context where we work, there are few, individuals from households who drop off. I did say that our business groups have threes, and that is a very safe number, such that if one drops off, then you still have two, and they can leverage on their unique capabilities to move the business forward. I've not really seen very, very serious or alarming cases where we've trained people and given grants and it has failed to work. And as Shadrach said, the grant is given after 3 months. That's quite a long time, and during that time they save. And ask me where they're getting the money they're saving. These people have capabilities of looking for money, even if it is 10 shillings or 20 shillings, and start savings even before the grant comes. So by the time you're giving grant at the 3rd month, you've seen the kind of resilience, the passion, and the commitment that the groups have to move this forward. So it is likely that you'll give a grant and it doesn't work. It rarely happens. So for me, I would not look at failure in terms of the model. I would look at failure in terms of the people we intend to partner with, like governments and private sector, failing to take this up, because this is a proven model that has worked across contexts, be it Bangladesh, be it India. Here in Kenya, I've had examples of successful stories. So the failure that I foresee probably is partners like government failing to take this up and pushing it forward to help the most poor. Thank you. All
right. Lucky, let me come to you and talk about some of the enterprises that we're seeing being started. And Sebastian did allude to some of those. But this also comes at the time of climate change, which is already pushing so many more Kenyans into poverty. In fact, the World Bank statistics show that Kenya loses about 2 to 3% of GDP annually because of climate-related shocks. So how do we integrate climate-smart enterprises and youth innovation into this private graduation model?
Thank you, Michelle. In the department that I'm heading, we also have youth. And when you talk about climate change effects, we've empowered youth in terms of encouraging them to have a tree planting, that is having the tree seedlings. Also to make sure that they engage in sporting activities that will elevate them to join clubs and all that. When I talk about having some seedlings, basically youths come together and have and they are very innovative, by the way. They come together like 10 or 5 of them. They have seedlings they in nurseries, and later on they sell to make sure that they get something to their pockets. Climate change has been an issue, and it's affected, like West Pokot, we have 3 kind of climatical situation. an extremely cold place, very hot and dry, and also a moderate one that we can have food, but although not so much, or rather very limited. So climatical change has really affected most of the people. Yes.
All right. Shadrach, Village Enterprise works a lot with the vulnerable groups, like John mentioned, especially women. How has that impacted the community? Because often they say when you uplift one woman, then you've uplifted an entire community. So when it comes to working with vulnerable groups, which is women, the countries that have refugees, what difference has that made in terms of raising the living standards of the vulnerable in society?
Thank you. And I think it's not just Village Enterprise alone. There are even many other organizations who are also in the same direction of ensuring that the vulnerables, even the government, national government, and even the county government, they also take care of that. Michelle, our policy of the Taita Taveta County Policy Elevation, and also the bill which is at the County Assembly, it's at our website. And I would request the viewers to go to our website of the Taita Taveta County Government and download it. It is taking care of the vulnerables. And it defines who are the vulnerables, the orphans, the youth. Nowadays, they need to be taken care of. It is well articulated that they need to be part and parcel of the Hutrapua graduation model, the women and the persons with disability. As you have said, when you touch a woman, it's like you are touching a generation. From the lessons we have learned in Bangladesh and India and many other places where Village Enterprise and other organizations like BRAC, where they have implemented Hutrapua graduation, you realize that it is the women-led households. The women-led households, they take up this program and take it seriously. Even in our country, it's chamas. Chamas have been doing well. The women groups are doing well. And you realize it is the women who come together. The persons with disability the same. And the youth nowadays the same. Therefore, if we take that direction and empower the vulnerable, empower those who feel are marginalized, I can tell you because they are already at the low level, they feel the heat, they feel the pain. It is easy for them to take up and also move forward. One thing when my colleague Sebastian was explaining is that the whole policy and the UPG, it should not be looked like it's a government agenda. It is the Kenyan agenda, because we have all of us to fight the issues of poverty, and this is a gospel which was started even by the first president. Therefore, the issue which you asked about the private sector, the Taita Taveta County bill and even the policy is giving it is an open door for the private sector to come in and help the government and help the communities. Because for Taita Taveta, we are looking at when the groups are now undergoing training, they know they need, they might be doing savings, they might even consume the savings. Therefore, we have also put a cap that there is need for consumption support. We have also brought in the issue of education support, health support, because we need to support these groups. Therefore, as a government, we may not be able to have those budgets. Therefore, the private sector, the non-profits, and those who feel that they need to support, they can come in and support in this way. The private sectors, like the financial institutions, they are now allowed to come in and support because these groups will be scaling. After the graduation, they need now to scale into serious enterprises. Therefore, the private sector, the banks, and the rest can come in and support.
All right, Sebastian, I'll come to you in just a moment before we wind up. John, one question from our viewers in terms of the requirements, the demographic requirements, so to speak. How old should you be to benefit from this program? Because when we say the vulnerable, when we say women, there are those who are, older, in 70, 80, above. Is there an age limit to who can benefit from this ultra-poor graduation program?
Thanks, Michelle. So on the lower limit, I think it should be someone who is able to start and run a business. So for me, anyone with an ID I did mention that we also work with youths. So yeah, that's one. And then on the upper limit, we have no restrictions. But again, you should be in a condition that will ensure that the kind of business that you choose to run, you're able to run it without challenges. Okay? So I've not seen very, very old men and women because the kind of businesses that are in this program are like smart agriculture, livestock management, they open small shops or groceries. So there's a bit of energy requirement also as well. So I've seen mostly middle-aged men and women in the program, but not seen very, very old. I think, but there are no restrictions really. It all depends on who from the household is able to join the program and make the whole household benefit on their behalf.
All right, we must begin to wind up this conversation. So, Sebastian, let me give you the last word. As we wind up this conversation, what single action would you say would accelerate this poverty graduation model in Kenya, say within the next 5 years?
Okay, yes, Michelle, the ultra-poor graduation model cannot work in isolation. It has to work along with other social protection interventions that have been running, and also with other policies and legal frameworks. Like in Makueni County, where the ultra-poor graduation policy will have to work hand in hand with the public participation policy that guides how communities are engaged, because we are going to engage communities in identification of the households at the villages. So now the public participation policy guides our interaction. The social protection policy, the youth policy, the persons with disabilities policy, the children's policy, and all those policies have to work in unison so that we are able to deliver this ultra-poor graduation approach. The national government also has some initiatives that are very critical for the success of this ultra-poor graduation approach. So there must be some synergy with other social protection initiatives so that jointly we are able to deliver this ultra-poor graduation agenda across the country, the county, the country, and everywhere.
Thank you very much, Sebastian. Unfortunately, that brings us to the end of this conversation. We need a lot more time to iron out this conversation. But that is Honorable Sebastian Choni. He is the County Executive Committee Member for Gender, Children, Youth, Sports and Social Services in Makueni County. Next to him, we have Honorable Shadrach Mutungi, the County Executive Committee Member for Youth Affairs, Sports, Gender and Social Services in Taita Taveta County. We also have Honorable Lucky Litole, County Executive Committee Member for Culture, Tourism, Sports, Youth Affairs and Social Services in West Pokot County. And last but not least, John Ochieng, Project Manager, Policy and Advocacy at Village Enterprise. And that brings us to the end of this discussion on how government, community and partners can come together to break the cycle of extreme poverty in our communities. Many thanks for watching tonight. My name is Michelle Ngele Odhiambo. Good evening.